Hello everyone. In this session, we will be discussing on list in Python. List is a data structure to store multiple values in a single variable. So far, we have understood variable is nothing but a memory location where we can store a single value and we can name that memory location. However, in some cases, for example, if we want to store the marks for 60 students in a school, or if we want to store the salary for 1,000 employees in a company, for such cases, creating 1,000 different variables are very difficult. In such situations, we will be using list in Python. List enable us to store multiple values in a single variable. Not only that, list can store different type of values together within a single variable. If you see here, items is a variable which can store multiple values. In this case, if you see, this is a boolean type value, this is a float value, integer value and a string value. We can combine all of them together and store within items. Remember, to create a list, we have to use square bracket. This bracket is known as square bracket. Now, how can we access these values stored within a single variable? We know that if we do print A, in this case, it will print 5. However, this items variable has a number of items stored within it. How can we access a very specific value, for example 5.6, from this items variable? We can do so by using indexes. Remember, each and every value will have index associated with it. And the index is nothing but a sequence number which will be associated with each values. And by default, the index value will start from 0. So very first item will have index of 0. Second item will be of index 1 and so on. We can access any specific value using index of a list. Here if you see, if we want to print item 1, it will print 5.6. Why? Because 5.6 is the value which is stored within index 1. Let's understand why list is called a mutable data structure. The meaning of mutable is we can change the value. We can always change or replace value stored within a list. And that is the reason list data structure in Python is a mutable data structure. If we want to change this value 5.6 and insert 100 in this position, what we have to do, we will simply write items index number 1, I want to assign a value of 100. What will be the new list? New list will look like this. As we can change or replace any value stored within a list, that is the reason it's called mutable. There are few data structures in Python which are not mutable. One example for immutable data structure in Python is tuple. Tuple is a data structure which is not mutable. In our subsequent sessions, we will understand what is tuple and all the other details related to tuple. There are a number of built-in functions what we can use on top of a list. Instead of writing any user defined functions, we can always use the built-in functions available for list. So it is very important to remember all the built-in functions for list so that you can use them as and when they are needed in your program. For example, if you want to sort all the elements stored within a list, there is a built-in function called sort. If you want to reverse all the items within a list, there is one built-in function for that too. Apart from that, we can insert a new value, we can remove an element from the list. Pop is also used to remove element from the list. Let's recap whatever we have learned so far. List is a data structure which can store multiple values. Why we need this? Because if we want to store salary for 10,000 employees in a company, defining all 10,000 variables are very difficult. That's the reason we can use a single variable to store multiple values within it. List even can store different types of values. That's why it is also called heterogeneous data type. We can store multiple data types here within a single variable. Values of a list can be accessed using indexes. We have understood that list index always starts from 0. The first element will be of index 0, second element will be of index 1 and so on. If we want to access them, we can use square bracket and provide the index number to get the value. List is mutable. Why? Because we can always change or replace the value stored within list. We have also understood to perform few tasks, we have already built-in functions in Python what we can use as and when needed. Let's understand a problem statement and we will understand how we can use list in our Python program. If someone is asking you to write a Python program to print even numbers present in a list. Let's say we have a list which is defined here with square brackets and there are few integers. Now we want to print only the even numbers present here. To do so, what we have to do, we have to check each and every item and we have to divide that item by 2. If there is no remainder, then it is an even number. To do the task, I have used a for loop. In our previous class, we have already understood how to define a for loop and use them in our Python program. Here, number is a variable which is iterating on numbers, which is nothing but the list. And for each and every number, we are basically performing modulus 2 operation. If the remainder is 0, then we will print the number, otherwise not. What will be the output for this program? It will print 2 and 20 because these are the only two values which are of even number. Let's see some built-in functions present for list operations. If we want to print length of numbers, it will provide us 4 because there are 4 items present within numbers. If we want to perform reverse operation, the list will be converted into something like this. Instead of 2, 7, 11, 20, it will be 20, 11, 7 and 2. If we want to sort numbers, this list will be sorted. In this case, though, the list is already sorted. Pop is used to remove the very last element. So, if we perform pop operation, we will end up having 2, 7 and 11. And pop will be actually deleting the very last element, which is nothing but 20. If we perform remove 7 on the list numbers, it will have only 3 items, 2, 11 and 20, and 7 will be deleted from here. If we want to append 7, what will happen? 2, 7, 11, 20. These many numbers will be as it is, and one more 7 will be added at last. Append means inserting an element at the last position. Extend is a built-in function which will add another list within this list. For example, the end result will be 2, 7, 11 and 20. After that 3, 4, 5 will be added here. We also have a built-in function called insert, which takes two parameters. One is index, another is the actual value you want to insert. If we want to insert 1 in 0th index, what will happen? The end result will insert 1 in the 0th location, and all the other items will be there as it is. Now, sometimes it is very difficult to remember all the built-in functions for list. You can always come to the documentation written in official Python website. Here, if you see, all these things are already present along with their definition. For example, here you can see append, extend, insert, remove, pop, whatever we have discussed so far, all these are written here. You can always go through it and practice them well, so that you can always remember all the built-in functions available in Python for lists. I will share this URL in my video description. Let's understand what is slicing in a list. Here in our example, we have created a list called numbers. Why numbers is a list? Because we are storing a number of items within a single variable, and we are using square bracket here to store them. This represents that numbers is nothing but a list. If we use type function on top of numbers, it will provide us list. Now, what is slicing? Slicing is nothing but taking a part of the whole list. We are basically slicing the entire list and are taking a part of the entire list. That is nothing but slicing. So this is the syntax for slicing. We have to use the list variable, initial index colon end index plus 1 colon 10. Here if you see in this list, if we mark them with the index, 2 will have 0 index, 7 will have 1 index, 11 is of 2 index, and 20 will have 3 index number. Now here if we do numbers 0 colon 2, what will happen? It will print 2 and 7. It will take a slice of the entire list and will print 2 and by default, if we do not put anything before colon and after colon, it means the entire list will be printed. It will print 2, 7, 11 and 20 because it will take 0 as initial index and length of numbers as end index. That is, these are the default values if we do not pass anything in the slicing. In this example, as you can see, we have not passed anything as the initial index. So always it will assume that the initial index is 0 and it will go till second index because 3 is written here. So it will print 2, 7, 11. It will not print 20 as well because we have written 3 here. So 3 minus 1 is nothing but 2. We have to print till second index. Let's take this example. It will start from 1. So first index is nothing but 7, 11 and 20. Because we have not given anything here, that means it is nothing but the length of numbers. And length of numbers is nothing but 4 here. 4 minus 1 means third, till third index it will be printed out. Let's take this example where if you see we have used both the colon. By the way, the second colon and this part is optional. If you do not put it, Python interpreter will not give you any error. The initial index is empty, that means it will be assumed as 0. The end index is 4, that means it will print till third index. Colon 2 is nothing but the step. We have seen this in the syntax. Step means it will skip the values because we have put 2. Let's understand it with the example. So as the initial index is 0, it will start from 0. It will print 2. It will not print 7 because our step size is 2. That means this is first step, this is second step. So it will print 11 now. And then first step and there is no second step, and that's the reason it will not print anything else. By default, this step size is 1. So if we do not pass this optional part, by default Python interpreter will assume the step size is 1. Let's recap the syntax one more time. So slicing will return a new list which will be the subset of the actual list. In this syntax, if you see, we have to write initial index first. By default, if we do not write anything, the initial index will be 0. After colon, we have to pass end index plus 1. So if you are passing 4, that means it will print till third index because the end index will be 3. If we do not pass anything here, then default value is length of the variable or length of the list. That means it will print all the items till end element. Colon step is an optional part. If you do not put anything, the default step size will be of 1. However, you can also specify colon 2 if you want step size as 2, or colon 3 if you want step size as 3. I am in my PyCharm library, and in this session we will understand about lists in Python. Using square bracket, we can define a list in Python. How can we print it? There is two ways to print the list. One is the list as a whole. You can write print statement and pass the list variable here. Second option to print elements of a list is using loop. Here if you see in this for loop, basically we are fetching one item at a time and printing it. Let's understand how can we access individual items from a list. We can use indexes to fetch the item from list. Here if you see sample list 0 means basically it will give you 2 as its answer. Remember, all the indexes starts from 0. The reason when we are printing sample list 0, it will give you 2 as its answer. What about sample list 2? It will give you 5.7. Not only positive values, we can even pass the negative values as well in case of Python list. -1 represents the last element. This will be -2, this will be -3, and so on. Let's see slicing in a list. We have a new list called numbers, and in numbers we have a number of items. Here if you use 0 as its initial index and length of number, here length is nothing but a built-in function for Python list. It will give you total number of items present in a list. So length of numbers will give you 5 as its answer. If we put 0:5, it will print all the items present here. That means what? It will start printing from 0th index and it will print till 4th index. This will also print exactly same as line number 21. If you do not put anything before and after colon, by default the initial index will be 0. Python interpreter will evaluate the initial index as 0 and the second argument will be of length list. The same thing what we have used here. If we print 1 to 3, basically it will start printing from first index till second index. So it will print two items which is 5 and 1. We can even put the initial index but not the final index. That is also possible. The similar approach we have understood here. If we do not put anything as final index, it will assume that length of list is the value for this final index. Here, if we do not put the initial index, it will give you 0 as initial index. We can put steps as well. By default, if we do not put any colon step number here, by default it will give you step value as 1. However, here colon 2 you can override the step size by 2. It will first print the first index because our initial index is 1, and then it will print till fourth index, which is nothing but 2, 3, 4. And but the step size will be 2. That means it will not print 1. After 5, it will directly print 6. After 6, it will not print 3, but if there is any other numbers after 3, it would have been printed that. Otherwise, it will not print anything else. So result of this will be 5 and 6, not 5, 1, 6. There are a couple of built-in functions as we have discussed in our theory session. Let's take the same list number. We can see the length of numbers. This will give you 5 because there are 5 elements present in this list. We can use max as built-in function to evaluate the maximum element present in this list. Here it is 6. Below are the built-in functions which will work on top of the existing list. That means what? It will modify the existing list. Here if you see, it is not modifying the existing list which is numbers. It is basically giving you some value evaluated on top of the elements present in numbers. However, here the whole list will modify. If you do numbers dot sort, what will happen? It will sort this numbers list. So it will start like 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6. We can use append to insert any item at the last. Basically, if I want to append 0, it will be added here after 3. Pop is a built-in function to delete the very last element. So whatever the last element present in the list will be deleted. We can even add a new list within an existing list. If you see here, extend is the built-in function where it will take a new list and will append all these items of the new list into the existing list. There are reverse built-in function as well, which will reverse the order of the items present in the list. Let me run this program and show you the result. Whenever we are printing sample list, it will print like this. However, when we are fetching each and every element and printing it, it is basically printing like this. Zeroth element and second element of the list. Zeroth element will be 2, second element will be 5.7. That is what has been printed here. Minus 1 means the last element of the list. We have the last element as a Boolean value true. That is what it is printing. Minus 2 is again 5.7. If you see here, if we are specifying 0 as the initial index of the slicing and the length of numbers is the last element, it is printing all the items present in the list. So basically slicing will always give you a new list which is fetched from the existing list as a slice. So here it is showing all the items. The same thing it can be shown by using this syntax as well. If we do not specify anything, 0 and the length is the initial and the final index. Five and 1 when the initial index is 1 and the final index is 3. It will only print first index and the second index, not the third index. Remember this. 1 to all the items present in the list. So it will start from 5 and it will print all the items of the list. starting from first index. In this case, it will start from 0th index and it will print till second index. That is what is happening here. Size is 2. By default, the step size is 1. If you want to override it, you can write another colon and the step size, which is optional value. If you do so, it will jump or skip some items based on your step size. If you see here, it started from 5, it skipped 1 and then it prints 6. That's the reason it is showing you 5 and 6 as its result. Let's take the same list of numbers and then run the built-in functions on top of this list. Length of numbers will give you 5. Maximum element of the list, we can see 6 is the maximum element. That is what it is printing. If we do sorting on top of the list, it will modify the existing list, and that's the reason when we are printing numbers again, it is showing us in sorted order. If we want to append a 0, it will be added at the end. That is what is happening here. Pop is a built-in function which will allow you to remove the very last item. That is what it is happening. After popping, the items are 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6. 0 got removed from the list. Using extend, we have added a new list into an existing list. That's the reason 8 and 9 got added in the numbers list. Even though we are printing numbers, 8 and 9 got added here. Reverse built-in function is basically reversing the order of elements present in the list. I will be adding this code into Git and I will share the Git link in the video description. Thanks a lot for watching this video.